You're good to go.
Perfect. Yeah, so thank you guys for coming and everyone that's online. We have one of our Tech Academy graduates, Andrew, here to share a little bit about cybersecurity and what that industry looks like. And really excited, and yeah, I'll let him take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone who joined, everyone who's joining online. My name is Andrew Christlieb. I'm a Oregonian at heart. Went to University of Portland, graduated with a degree in political science and philosophy. And you're thinking to yourself, well, what's this guy going to tell me about cybersecurity? Fair question. However, having come to the Tech Academy, I was introduced to a lot of very profound technical ideas and very profound motivations with regards to what the technology industry has to offer someone who's looking for either a new career, a change in career, or opportunities that they are looking to invest in. So I want to start out by saying that I work for a company called Akamai Technologies, and I will get a little more into that as we continue on with this presentation. But I just wanted to say thank you again for joining, everybody. So a company like Akamai carries a portfolio, as you see here. Now, when you look at these things, some of these things may stand out to you, some of them may not. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to go through all the things that we do, but I will touch briefly on these things and why they matter. DDoS protection. Many of you who are interested in the cybersecurity Tech Academy, I guess, how would you call it? Kind of the next iteration of your next solutions here. DDoS is huge. Dedicated denial of service. This, on the infrastructure level, means that when someone DDoSes your network, layer 3 and 4 of the OSI layer, which I'll get to in a second, that means your entire network goes down. We stop that from happening. I'll pause real quickly. The reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because there's a whole mess of things that cybersecurity can cover just from one company's perspective. There are plenty of other companies out there that either focus on one of these things or something completely different. But there's a holistic approach that we take that tends to work well with large enterprise companies, companies that are looking to secure everything from their infrastructure, organization, APIs, as long as compute and performance. So without DDoS protection, that's what you hear in the news when someone says, we got DDoS attacked and their whole network went down. We can help with that. Microsegmentation. Many of you may be familiar with the MGM attack that took place recently. Many of you are familiar when companies get ransomware. We can help with that. Some of this stuff, like I said before, is kind of nuanced, and I think I'm happy to answer any questions that we have post. This is all zero trust. Who here is familiar with zero trust? So it's a framework of security that means that you don't trust anybody. So the idea is typically what was oftentimes thought of as a kind of a firewall, kind of like a moat to a castle. If you have a moat in front of a castle, that should stop all the bad actors. However, once you cross that moat and you get into the castle, that person has access to every single room. Zero trust stops all that from happening. As far as once you get in, every room kind of has an access code. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but something to consider. What Akamai is well known for, and what many of you I'm sure are familiar with, is streaming. You guys like to watch Netflix, Hulu, Apple, all that stuff? Yeah, you're welcome. The big thing is when the internet first started, it was called the World Wide Wait. Oftentimes there was a lot of lag and latency. When you would try to shop online, it was a hard thing to do. When you wanted to find maybe a new pair of shoes or whatever, that image to load on an HTML, CSS website would take a long time. So we kind of fixed that. So again, that's just a really quick, subtle overview of what we do. Certainly there's a much more we can talk about, but one of the reasons that this company turned into a cybersecurity company is as a content delivery network, our CDN, what ends up happening is we see over 30% of any worldwide traffic on the internet, on the web at any given time. So that visibility gives us data, and data is security, hands down. The more you know, the more you see, the more you interact with, the more you can make judgment calls based off of good actors, bad actors, malicious actors, bots, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how this whole thing starts to kind of make sense, is once we had visibility into everything, we were then able to protect everything. Any current questions? Okay. Why cybersecurity? Why now? This is something I pulled off just a random Google search. It doesn't take much to realize that companies suffer, and they suffer all the time. The three things that we try to focus on when we talk to large enterprise companies is that cyber attacks damage your company's reputation, the risk of business continuity, and the huge financial damage. Reputation. We all know that there's a lot of options out there to go searching and buying from, right? If you can't buy from Target, you go to Fred Meyer. If you can't go to Fred, you figure out the place that makes sense to you. And oftentimes these things are directly related when you read in the news, hey, my information is no longer safe at X company, I'm going to go to Y company. Business continuity. So this might be a term that you're not very familiar with. Business continuity is oftentimes used for people that work at a company and they say, I want to work from home, or when I travel and I have to access certain applications, I need to be able to access all this stuff on the go. And if our network goes down, or if our websites go down, or whatever, I can no longer maintain what I'm doing for work. So now you're not only are you losing customers, but the employees that you have can't continue to do their jobs. That's a huge deal. Again, there are certain companies, like if you think of Amazon or Macy's or Nordstrom, a lot of what they sell comes from their online retail. If their online retail goes down, or if the individuals that they use to spend to maintain that infrastructure goes down, business continuity goes down. Now you're talking about losing not just the fact that you're losing customers, but your employees can't do their job. That's a really big problem. And again, financial damage. You've seen in the news, like I said, companies get hit with ransomware attacks, they have to pay up. Now cybersecurity companies or cyber insurance companies are saying, we're going to have to really up your rates. And not just that, but the White House is now putting out information saying that if you don't disclose a cybersecurity attack, you can get fined. So this is everywhere. This is all over the place. So when it comes to cybersecurity, why and now? It's because it really does happen, and it really does affect how customers tend to purchase. Any question on that last slide, by the way? Okay. Has everyone seen a cybersecurity attack in the news that maybe you use one of their services, like a bank or a retail or something? Yeah. So if there's something there that you maybe, again, imagine if Wells Fargo or US Bank or any of the other banks had to lose people because people lost faith in their security. It's a big deal. When it comes to this particular slide, I wanted to go over a little bit more about how to land a sales job and what the sales roles are within cybersecurity. Entry level down to the most sophisticated level. So when you look at an SDR and a BDR, I want to be mindful of the word entry level. That doesn't mean that it's uneducated, or that person doesn't know what they're doing, or that person isn't thoughtful about their efforts. What this means is that if you're going to go into a cybersecurity sales role, this is where you will start, unless you have a very compelling reason to start here, which is not unheard of, but I don't want to set expectations off. This right here, an SDR or a BDR, is a sales development representative or a business development representative. Same thing. The goal here at this role is to help set meetings for ISRs, which is an inside sales rep, or an account executive, which is basically an outside sales rep. Now, every company has a different way of going about these conversations. Sometimes this exists and this doesn't exist. Sometimes the other one exists. So it's important that you know when you're looking at those roles to ask these questions. What is the role here for you? Typically at this point, it's the same thing. You're setting meetings for this role. So I'm assuming that when everyone starts in this role, the goal is potentially to get to this role. This is where the money's at. Let's call it what it is, right? So when you start here, your job is to outreach to companies. You learn the product, you learn how to pitch it, you learn how to sell it, typically. But more importantly, you start to get inundated with all the information. At this point, you should be reading news articles. You should educate yourself so that when the time comes to be promoted to this role, it's a no-brainer. Now, typically, this transition takes between 12 and 18 months, depending on the company. Now, transparently, what you're paid for this role is anywhere between like $50,000 to $70,000, typically speaking. I can't speak for all companies. So it's a good place to start because you can still make commissions. Now, again, good questions to ask are, what's the commission paid on? Is it based off booked meetings? Is it based off of outreach? Is it based off of effort? There's a whole bunch of different questions to ask. This, once you get to here, typically, the separation between these two roles is anything from employee count to a company to revenue of a company. When you start to get to this point, and this point, which is where I'm at here, you have $1 billion plus companies that you're dealing with here. And the maturity of the company makes a big difference. So there really is a method to the mayhem, but there's no reason to think that you can't do everything that you can to keep moving down this chain and this kind of like ladder of success, simply because the best thing you can do in roles like this is to show why you deserve these roles. That's your only goal. Okay. Now, obviously, do your job, be really good at what you do, be a team player, but know and often talk to your manager that this is where you want to be. Okay. Any questions on the sales roles?
How long did it take you to get to SAE?
This whole path took 2 separate jobs in over 4 years. And I can talk to you a little more about that too offline too. But basically, I had not started here. I had started at other companies and came here. And if you guys want to know more about my history, that's totally fine. But more importantly, you have to understand this is where this thing goes, and it's sometimes out of your control. Most times companies that's just what they do. It's just, there's no way around it. I mean, unless you really know the manager or you have some really compelling event, you have to be prepared to work your way through this. And if you're not prepared to work your way through this, like I said, if something's not compelling them to make you think differently, then it's okay. Because again, you learn, you go through the process. In each step of the way, there are skills that you learn. But the last thing you want to do is be stuck anywhere, right? And you want to have an agenda. You want to have a goal. You want to know where you're going. Tell them why you want to be there. Tell them why you want to be an SAE or at least an MAE, or at least, hey, I know why I have to do this and I like doing this. And some of you may love being an SDR or a BDR. I personally didn't. I wanted to find a role that made me more money, gave me more freedom, and allowed me to travel. So that's me personally. Any more questions? Okay. This one's really important, and I'm happy to really double down on this one. Do your homework. Do your homework. And what I mean by that is, like, when you're probably looking for jobs on LinkedIn, when you're looking for jobs on Glassdoor or Indeed or any other networking thing, have a reason why. And when I say that, when you want to skip this role, when you apply to this role, what you want to do is say, I want to work here. Why? I want to work here because, see if I go back to this one, because I really, really love network layer DDoS protection. I really, really have a passion for microsegmentation. The reason why is my buddy does this, and I really want to do this, and I went to school for this, and I've researched this, and these are your competitors, and here's what you're up against. I know that you're an energy company, and oftentimes energy companies, they don't really care about applications. When you go to your energy company and you go to abcenergy.com, you're not streaming anything. You don't really care about looking at images of what you're trying to buy. You want to log in, pay your bill, or God forbid something happens and you want to update your friends and family about, what's going on with your location or whatever. So you have to kind of think about like what your passion is with when it comes to something similar to this. And again, it's a big thing. So do your homework again. Find the company you want to work for. Find 5 or 6. Let's be honest, it's not easy. Okay. And then find your why. That's a big one. Why? Why do you care? Why do you want to work there? When you talk to a hiring manager for sales, they know you want a job. That's not confusing. But like, why? Like, make their job easy for them. 90% of my job currently is to make everyone else's job a whole lot easier. Make their job easier. Make it super easy. Make it like, why wouldn't we hire you? That should be the question that you should be asking. Always reach out to the manager. Always reach out to the person who's going to be hiring you. Don't deal with HR. I mean, do the things that you have to do to get to put your information in. And that way, when you reach out to this person on LinkedIn, or if you have any other mediums for outreach and they say, have you reached out to so-and-so? Yeah. We've done all that. That's already in the system. I want to talk to you because how I can help you is that I've noticed that your company, you are selling into this. You are an energy company and you're a HCLS company, healthcare life science. And one of the biggest problems you have is this. And then boom. Or you're, as a tech sales company or as a cybersecurity company, your big push is microsegmentation. I can go back to that and say, and microsegmentation is critical for these companies for these reasons. I already know all this. So is your team doing that? Again, like, set everything up for them. Make it so that they have to hire you. Now, again, this is a lot of work, but there's a lot of rip and replace here. There's a lot of things that you can share with a energy company. You can share with an e-commerce company. Again, going back to this. I know we didn't really cover this, but like image and video management. Hey, I know that you work for an e-commerce company. And one of the biggest problems that you have during the big sales season is that your website keeps crashing because you get too many people coming on those big sales. Those big sales days, your company can't handle that workload. We can take care of that for you. So again, think like that. Think about problem solving in that capacity. Again, that falls into learn their business. This one's big too. If you're interested in sales and you really want to grow with that company, again, LinkedIn, great place. Talk to their sales team. Again, you're going to have a hard time finding a sales guy who's not responding to a LinkedIn request or a phone call or an email. These are easy. Hey, my name is Joe Smith. I'm looking at joining your company. I have a couple of questions. And again, when you ask questions like this, think of a no being a yes. And what I mean by that is, would it be unreasonable for me to reach out to you and have a conversation about this? Would it be unreasonable? No. So a no is a yes. Hey, can I talk to you about this role at this company? Why would I want to do that? I'm in sales. I know that you're not going to buy my solution. I don't care. But would it be unreasonable if I reached out to you and talked to you more about this? So think about it like that when you're going through this process. Any questions here? What do I do all day? I'm in sales, right? I just sit in my pajamas all day. Sometimes. More often not. More often it's business from the top down and I got to wear something fancy on top. No, but it's in a role like this, when you're looking at selling cybersecurity to larger companies or even smaller companies or any company, what you're always doing is managing your day because time is everything. So one of the things that we do is we work with partners. So partners are like resellers. So anyone here have a Costco membership? All right, you guys, yeah. When you go to Costco, most often you buy either Kirkland products or you buy products that don't really have a storefront. Same with Best Buy, right? Do you guys go to Sony stores? Do you guys go to LG stores? No, you have resellers. Make these people understand why your solution is better than the other solution. We all know that Best Buy and Costco sells competitive brands. I mean, when you go into Costco, one of the first things that you see is a kiosk of Apple, Samsung, Sony, LG. My job and everyone else's job who's in this sales community says, there's a reason why we avoid those ones. We want to go to the correct kiosk, or we want to sell the correct solution through the partner. That partner gets money on the back end. And again, that's all nuanced back end stuff. But again, you're talking to partners, you're talking to other salespeople who are also very interested in solving their customers' problems. The reason that we work with those partners too is those partners really have the relationship. When's the last time anyone here had a call from Honda or Toyota to see if anyone wanted to buy a Honda or Toyota? Never. Never. They don't rely on those people. They rely on the people who help push those solutions. So, partners, critical. Make the people who want to resell your products happy. It's a good start. Direct outreach. Hate to say it. Pick up the phone. Make friends. Come to downtown. Go to every event in your territory that you can to introduce yourself and make sure that everyone around you who has an inkling of something that may touch on what you do know absolutely what you do and how you can help. This takes time. It builds relationships. Okay? These are not things that you do overnight. This job is not transactional sales. If you want to do transactional sales, go to Gap, go to Abercrombie & Fitch, sell whatever, sell transactional sales. These are relationship sales. These are $70,000 deals in your pocket. These are total contract value sales, 36 months, multi-million-dollar deals with big companies. People buy from people they know and people they trust. Okay, now assuming your solution works, which I can't help you with that, you got to think about it like that. So when you're doing this all day and you're at home and you're working from home and you want to sit in your pajamas and watch Netflix all day, you can. Time will come, the reckoning will come. If you're not closing deals, you'll get the boot. So you have to want it. And again, sorry, I keep knocking this. There's money to be made. There's a lot of money to be made, but you got to want it. And you got to be self-starting, self-motivating, and you got to be consistent. There will be days that you want to blow your brains out. I don't know if that's appropriate to say, but it's hard. It is hard. And you'll miss most of the time. Taking rejection, being confident, going out and doing what you know you have to do day after day will get you to where you want to go. I covered this with a few folks in here earlier. How did the Tech Academy prepare me for this role? First and foremost, how to learn tech. This is critical. I don't care which job you take on, if it's in sales or it's in whatever, you have to understand that you are a student of the craft. Okay? I am learning every day. I have mentors. I have people that I turn to. I have tech mentors that teach me the technology that we sell to make me better. I have salespeople who are better than me at filling in the gaps that I have as a salesperson to make sure that when I talk to customers, I can do even better. That's what the Tech Academy does. You can learn all the nuances of technology. You can learn all the nuances of, again, how Python works, or how CSS, or how API security works, how microsegmentation works, and how all these network layer works, and all that kind of stuff. You can pass the test all day long, right? You guys are all smart. You guys all pass tests to get into Tech Academy. So they vetted you guys already. At the same time, how it prepares you is it teaches you how to think about tech. Any questions on that one? Okay. Oh, am I missing anything here? Is anyone hoping that they saw something that they haven't quite seen yet? Online, anyone?
So far, so good, yeah.
All right. Are they all asleep, or are they? Okay. Again, learning how to learn tech. And these are just a few things. And I know this is very academic. You can't really see that one. Okay. So OSI, Open Systems Interconnection, this is really important to know. And it's important for me to know because there's 7 different layers in which attack surfaces can take place on. So you have the first layer, well, this is upside down. So the application layer is what you're used to when you're interacting with a website. When you go to Amazon to order, I don't know, peanuts or whatever, you're going to go, I want to go to Amazon, and it interacts with you. That's the application layer. So application layer all the way down to the physical layer is what our company works on. Now, there are companies that really focus. Typically, between application layer, there's 3 and 4, which is network layer. And I mentioned before, you really want to mess a company up, you take their whole network offline. That's what those volumetric DDoS attacks will do. And that is significant. Again, application layer, Macy's.com goes down. You can't order jackets or shoes or, I don't know, whatever else you buy off Macy's.com. It will reduce what they can get as with regards to their income or with regards to their revenue, but it's not going to shut their entire network offline. So again, not saying that one's more important. In my opinion, there is, but at the same time, they're all worth considering. So again, understanding the OSI model and understanding where whatever cybersecurity company you want to work with plays in that space. Okay. Edge compute. This has been a thing that's been around for about 20 years. Again, the edge is a very important term to know. And what is the edge, right? So briefly, what the edge is this. You have an origin. You have basically your data center where you put all your information. The problem is when if someone like everyone in this room makes a request to that same data center all at the same time, now times that by 100 million people, that origin is going to eventually crash because there's just too many requests. What Akamai does and what edge servers do is they put all this information on the edge, so as close to the end user as possible. What's useful about that is now when these origins push information to those edge servers, nothing hits the origin, everything hits the edge server. It's all cached there, which speeds up the internet. Caching, anyone unfamiliar with caching? Okay. Yeah?
Unfamiliar.
Okay, yeah, so caching is basically all this information is, so when, let's say I wanted to request an image of someone giving a high five. If I say, show me an image of someone giving a high five, that's going to be cached. That initial request will come from the origin and come to that edge server. And then at that point, every time anyone around that edge server wants to request that image, it's already stored there. Speeds up the internet, makes it more secure. And until there's a next push from the origin, that image will stay there. And every time you push it, it's all, basically done behind the scenes and all that fun stuff. And so, yeah, that whole top part isn't necessarily important at this point. But anyways, so edge compute. These are big things when you come to cybersecurity that you're going to hear these things across the board. Network segmentation. I threw this in there simply because this is a hot topic issue. Microsegmentation. Taking a network. So this is all within the company. So this is what we would consider east-west traffic, where when you're talking about application layer, I mentioned about talking about going to Amazon.com, that's all north-south traffic. You're coming into it. Now, once you're in the network, it's critical that you know who, what, and why is touching each segment of your network. Now, I'm going to just pause there because it's a very... It's a longer conversation than we have available for us today. But what's important is there's a whole lot to take in when it comes to cybersecurity. And again, network stuff, you want to get like big money, you want to get like big problems, you want to know what keeps a CISO up at night, a chief information security officer, that'll do it. This, the application layer, I can't see it here, but layer 7, that keeps marketing up at night. Because if marketing can't sell the new hat that they made, that's going to hit them. So again, it touches everybody. Any questions on that?
The cache gets full on the edge. Does it ever get full? I know storage and memory are huge now. Is there ever a time it gets cleared?
It's cleared by the customer's request. I mean, so Akamai specifically has over 400,000 edge servers all over the world. So again, like you're in South Africa and you want to watch the next cricket game and you want to stream it, like that's where all that stuff starts to make a difference. So, but again, so good question. So when it comes to like caching, it's all well, I shouldn't say that. When you cache something on the edge servers, you can request how long you want that information cached for. But that's dependent on certain companies. Some companies may say, we only put up a new shoe once a month, so we'll just have that cached there. Sometimes it's caching information, so like updates with regards to, like, let's say it's traffic updates, like Google, for example. When you want to go on like Google and like try to find a route, they're always churning cache because they always want to have it in real time. So, yeah. Anyone else? Cool. Okay. You heard that whole pitch. You guys, sales isn't for me. Fine. It's cool. I dig it. Here's what you can do, though. And this is kind of what I surround myself with at my company. So I'm the account executive. I work very, very closely with my solutions engineer. And so what the solutions engineer is a person who is basically an account executive, but really knows the technology. And I mean, is kind of like the way I say it, like, and again, I'm not a pretty face. I'm the face, he's the brains. My particular SE is a gentleman named Bob, and he always keeps me honest. It's easy for me to say, yes, I can do that. But he goes, yeah, no, we can't do that. And I go, cool. And he keeps me honest, right? So you have solutions engineers. So you have someone that works very closely with the sales representative, and their role is to really be the technical advocate for the solution. Now, here's the kicker. There's a lot more security in their role. Now, they don't get commissions. They tend to get commissions as a team. So their base is a lot higher, but their commission is lower. So this is the infinite conversation that anyone who's maybe been in sales or been anywhere else has to ask themselves. Am I so good that I will survive off commissions? Now, don't get me wrong, the base for tech sales is high. So after that SDR role, like my base right now is like $120,000 as a base. That doesn't include commissions. Okay. So at the same time, I am also always on the chopping block. I am the first to go. If I don't make my number, if I don't do something right, it all comes on you. You're the quarterback. Okay. So you blow it, like if Tom Brady misses a throw, even if the wide receiver drops the ball, it's Tom Brady's fault. Okay, so you own that. But again, you ride this kind of roller coaster of perks. The solutions engineer doesn't necessarily have to worry about that. That person is going to be much more inclined to continue to be an engineering resource because there's a lot more money invested in them from the company because they know all the solutions. Okay, so solutions engineer is a big one. Now, of course, there's solutions architects, and there's layers and layers and layers of engineering that are involved. So again, if you don't, and they're also customer facing, they join me in all my calls. So I was in San Jose last week. I'm going back to San Jose next week. I work with Bob hand in hand. We show up together and we do everything together. We're, whether you like them or not, they're your lifeline. So they're critical for your success because when things, depending on who you talk to, if I'm talking to someone in marketing, I can probably get away with talking about most stuff Akamai does. If I start talking with a solutions architect at a high tech company, whew, if I'm not careful, I'll embarrass myself and I'll blow the whole deal. You got to know when to pass it on to the right person. Again, you're the quarterback. And I'm not sure if anyone who's a football fan. So you have to know when to throw, know when to pass, know when to you got to know when to do the right thing. And that's critical. So again, there's plenty of roles within the role that I'm talking about that you can potentially come into. Now, at the same time, I talk about who works at a SOC, a Secure Operation Command Center. These are people who are so sophisticated with how the internet works, and they're the true, they're very unique people. I don't know how to explain that any other way, but like I said, there's a lot of layers to this. The reason I'm here today is because I'm customer facing, and my job is to get you excited about our solution. Now, obviously, I'm not in a sales call. This is not a sales conversation, but my job is to get them going, microsegmentation, DDoS, like what? Like that's my job. So I'm the hype man, so to speak. Any questions about that?
We do have one question
Yes.
from the chat. Sherry asked, what does a solutions architect know that a solutions engineer doesn't, and vice versa?
Oh, sorry. Good question. So a solutions engineer knows how the product will best fit into the customer's issue. So for an example, oftentimes, so I'm working with a company right now in the Bay Area where they're having issues with bots. So think about like, you know, I'll use an easy example. This obviously isn't the case, but this is a good example. Nike, when Nike puts out a new pair of shoes, or Adidas or whatever, what oftentimes do is they time the release. Bots will scrape that release so that when that release immediately happens, they'll have someone buy all the shoes. PS5s, anything being released by a major company, bots will scrape that. But bots are also good. So there are bots, let's say you have, I don't know, like Steve's Roofing. Like what Google will do is say, hey, Steve, what do you charge for your roofing? So when someone types in Steve's Roofing, it says $150 per roof. I know I'm totally being crazy here, but like the idea is bots are also really useful because Google bots or other bots will scrape, and so they'll increase your SEO or your search engine optimization so that when someone types in roofs, Steve's Roofs pops right up. And so you want those bots, but you don't want those bots that buy up every PS5 on their initial release. And then you don't, now all those things are being sold in a secondary market. Solutions architects will know how, like, they are kind of like a way level above, and they're almost never customer facing. They make sure that like all the solutions work on the back end. So the best way I can describe it is like solutions architects, in my experience, tend to make sure that products don't fail, whereas the solutions engineers pitch the products to. So again, it's kind of, you know, it's like, I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. It's like, I wouldn't want to say they're more sophisticated or they know more. It's just that their job is to make sure that like everything that we say that we can do actually gets done. Otherwise, we're just full of hot air, right? So solutions architects are, you know, for lack of a better term, the people that you never see. They're the Mr. Robots. I guess that's kind of, it's probably not fair to say, but that is probably my best analogy. Next question, or?
That was the only one.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions about, okay, I don't care about sales, like what else can I do for a company like Akamai or anything with cybersecurity that maybe I didn't touch on?
Yeah, what type of other opportunities are there with that they offer any type of like trading compensation?
Yep.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a recruiter. I can't speak for Akamai, but like for sure, like so, like the benefits and the perks are awesome. Like again, I work from home. Like they give you like work from home budgets. They give you You know, if you want to join a gym, they give you a compensation for that. Like, you know, once you're there for over a year, you start to get market shares. Like, and again, that's company to company, you know. So like, I can give you my card if you want to look into it. But like, again, look, one of the reasons that attracted me to tech, and I'm sure everyone else here too, is like, dude, the benefits are great, the lifestyle is great, pay is great. We're all here for a reason. Like, you know, Akamai has really doubled down on their work from home. We do like a flex work environment. I'm sure every other company, apart from probably Intel, probably has a little bit different of an approach. But yeah, I mean, again, it's the benefits are great, the perks are good. And I think for me, you know, one of the main reasons I wanted to join, or why I got into tech too, is I was constantly challenged. I came from a different background too, like I mentioned before, and then I sold insurance for a while. And what I had to learn from insurance was just regulations. Okay, like that's just keeping up to date. But like new tech, like whoa, like API security is coming out, like that's huge. Like microsegmentation, we just acquired that. We acquired a company called Linode, so now we can go up against AWS and Azure. Like seriously, like wow, like that's kind of exciting stuff for me at least. So it's like when you start to kind of get into that world, I think the excitement starts to behoove itself, because you're so, if you're not interested in this on your own, you certainly won't be interested in selling it. So it's like, if it's something that's, you know, passionate for you, then double down on it. And again, tech as a whole, what I'm sharing with you isn't necessarily related to cybersecurity uniquely. It's typically tech altogether, you know, and there's nuances across the board. But like I said, like my goal here was to really kind of share with you guys, like, hey, tech sales is a really, really lucrative and really exciting thing to do, especially if like as you're doing your dev work, you're kind of going like, okay, I like this, I'm learning a lot, but like I want to like talk to people, I want to like get involved with other folks, like I want to see what else is out there, or you know, whatever. I'm just, you know, this is where I think there's the nuance I think needs to be exposed to it. So I think that's it. Yeah, Q&A. Anyone else?
When you came to school at the Tech Academy, did you come to do tech sales afterwards?
No. So I tried to do, I wanted to be a project manager. And I had a buddy who was doing tech right downtown. And I had done my junior dev course, and I really wanted to get into project management. And I struggled with the experience part of it. And I was a okay junior dev. I knew that wasn't my passion, but I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to make sure if I sat down and had a conversation with someone, I could at least talk about the basic stuff. But what I realized was, it was like, okay, well, if I don't have experience with waterfall, if I don't have experience with Jira, if I don't have experience with all these things at the time, where am I going to land, right? And so having had, you know, an interest in, again, just talking about tech, and I think in my mind, being someone who, I don't know, could sit down and have a beer or have a cup of coffee, like that ended up giving me confidence to then transition over to a couple of, you know, entry-level roles as an SDR, as I mentioned before, where I took this role 3 different companies. This was not easy. To be honest with you, this was not easy. But when you transfer over, or when you start to build from this, what you get is all that experience, which makes you better at these 2 roles. And so again, this is critical to get good at this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that anyone isn't good at it, but I'll tell you what it is. Selling SaaS in today's market is not easy, because everyone and their mom sells SaaS. You want to Google cybersecurity companies? Like, call me next week when you're done going through every single company that sells cybersecurity. Now, having said that, there's nuances. Companies get gobbled up. You can IPO with a company, make a killing, whatever. But ultimately, you have to start somewhere. And this isn't bad. This isn't the worst role. I think with the room I'm seeing here, the biggest problem I have, I'm 36. When I got into this particular role after military and other stuff, I was 30. And some of these folks picked up on this younger. They were 22, 23. But guess what you have that they don't have? Like a lot more maturity. Yeah. And they'll see that too. And the companies will see that, and management will see that, and they'll notice that you have confidence and maturity. And again, it's when you're talking to customers, when you're sending phone calls, when you're or not sending emails, making phone calls, whatever, it's storytelling. It's getting people interested. Talking to people who you know how to talk to them. You know, you're talking to a friend of yours, or talking to whatever. You're networking. You know, and again, having the bigger picture. You know, it's like if I told a 21-year-old, hey, smash the phones, smash emails, never quit, that's great. We have those SDRs, we have those BDRs. But when I have a conversation with someone who goes, hey, I got a bunch of friends in this community, I just want to like make thoughtful, reactive conversations, you need those people too. And when you make that clear, this is where you want to go. And then you stop trying to be really good at this, and you start to make this obvious to them, you get promotions. That's really what it is. Again, stop trying to be good at this role and start to make these roles the obvious next steps. Why wouldn't I hire you for that? Tell me why I shouldn't be hiring you. That's your mindset, right? That's where your head should be. Because again, this is, you guys ever seen or read the book Holes? Yeah. Digging holes in search for gold. Okay. That's this role. Someone's got to do it, but it's a quick transition because at some point you're going to go kill me, right? But at the same time, when you say to yourself, hey, I'm actually really good at helping people dig holes or managing those kind of roles, like that's where that kind of goes. So again, give them a reason to say no. So, and we can talk more about that too later, but I know I'm close to time. So, yeah, and like I said, there are some people, I work with people right now who have no problem with this. Because again, you work for a company long enough and you just kind of have job security, kind of. But they don't want the responsibility because this is a zero-sum game. This world lives in zeros and ones. Okay? Either you close the deal or you don't. Now, in my experience, when you join a company, you live in a paradigm between politics and performance. Okay? Especially in sales. Now, there's been years I've had bad years, so I rely on my politics. The fact that I'm a nice guy, I'm easy to work with, I help people out, I'm optimistic, I try to be all those things that people want to work with. That's my politics. So if my performance is low, I can at least double down on the fact that people go, yeah, his numbers are low, but he's a nice guy. I like him. He's a cool guy. He helps out. He's a good team player. He shows up. He's on time. He's always put together, whatever. And the other side, not like I became a mean, nasty person, but when your performance is really high, what that does is that politic, it buys you clout, right? It buys you the cushion, like, okay, great year, great quarter, great whatever. But like, I now have this side that's going, okay, I know that because I had a great quarter, everyone's like, hey, this is that dude, he's super nice and all that kind of fun stuff. But when you have those bad years, you will have to rely on those politics. So again, it's so critical that you are a team player. Obviously, I don't need to tell everyone here. Everyone here's a great person, so it shouldn't need me to reiterate this. But most importantly is, again, be nice to people. Just be nice to people. And it's in sales. It's a zero-sum game. So you get pushback all the time, and it's always rejection. And every time you get a yes, it's 50,000 no's. So it's like, don't let that burden your coworkers. Don't let that burden your partners. Don't let that burden anyone else. Let that burden you. Go home, scream into a pillow, get a workout in, grab a beer, get a coffee, whatever. But like, don't wear that on your sleeve because it's obvious. You meet another customer. Again, it's like, I hate to use this analogy, but it's kind of like dating. It's like, if you have a bad date, the worst thing you can do is take that bad date mentality into your next date, because that date that you're, or like if you're like, going on another date with someone else and you had a bad date with someone else, if you sit there and go, oh, I'm in a bad mood, I just can't get anything right, that person's going to go, well, we had an opportunity to have a new beginning, but you chose to bring in baggage from this. So again, like you got to check that SHIT at the door every single day. Check your bad attitude. Check whatever happened last night, whatever's going on at home. Like, because again, it all kind of comes full circle. And when you have an opportunity to make like pretty good money here, like don't blow it because of you. Blow it because, I don't know, you couldn't get it right that year and they had to kick you out, or there was something else happened, or there was like a huge let go at the company or whatever. But like always be nice, because you never know when things come full circle. Sales is a fickle industry, and you're more often than not going to come back to that person again later on. So always be that person who is nice. Just be nice. Just be nice to people. There's plenty of salespeople who didn't make it, and not for so many different reasons, but one of the reasons that no one else hires them, because they're just not nice people. Just be a nice person. It's not that hard. So, sorry, I was rambling there. Questions, comments? You guys are new. What's going on over there?
Well, that's a whole can of worms to unpack.
Okay.
Well, when there's a big data breach or cyber attack with one of your clients,
Yeah.
what happens? Like on your end, the rest?
Yeah, good question. So I am a pure hunter. My whole job is new logos. I probably should preface that. What my role is at this company is if a company does not have any spend with Akamai, my job is to get them to have a spend with us. So, but to your question, we have a whole farming team. So we have a whole team that are aligned to accounts that are currently having spend with Akamai. So if they get breached, I always go, oh my God, please, none of our stuff failed. Please, none of our stuff failed. If that's the case, again, it all gets transitioned to the farming team. So I don't have to personally deal with that. Now, don't get me wrong. As wonderful as our company is, I'm sure there are certain things that slip through the cracks. I don't hear about them, but ultimately, I'm kind of all new horizons. So my role typically is that I sign on a customer, and then we work to onboard them. And then after the onboarding process takes place, then we offload them to our farmers. And our farmers are very dedicated. Again, they have resources that we don't have, and they're all for farming resources. So if a breach takes place for a non-Akamai customer, I do everything I can to be tactful and polite. And if it's relevant to what we can do, obviously my goal is to sit there and say, I read this in the newspaper, you came to mind. I thought about you guys, and I'm obviously thinking about titles. I'm thinking about who's doing what, trying to be respectful. Because again, like the worst thing you can do is call someone in distress and say, hey, I saw that you guys effed up, and we're here to help you. At the same time, people need that, because again, they might not know where to turn. Because again, if you type in cybersecurity, like, do you mind if I use this computer?
Yeah.
Okay. So like, imagine you're a big company. I'm under DDoS attack, right? Most companies will do this. This is where you go, right? Oh, nice, dude. There we go. Hey.
Hey, look.
Honestly, this was not set up because we have our own issues with why this happened, but this is great, right? So the whole idea is, something like this happens, and again, of course, you're also talking to people who are, network security professionals who have been in this for 20 years, and they obviously have a bias towards who they like to use or whatever, but this is really important to know, right? Like, again, when you're a CISO or you're an InfoSec guy, and all of a sudden someone calls you at 3 a.m. and goes, our network is down. And you go, what? And then you have to come into the office and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And you're going, who can I trust? It's like, these are the things that you would probably do like anyone else, right? Like, I got a car accident, like, who do I call or whatever? So these things come up all the time. And so, like I said, that when I was talking about DDoS attacks, I know I'm being biased, but it's like, when these things do happen, we like to think to ourselves, like, we're the top of the line, right? Like, yeah, as you, I don't worry about those guys. Yeah, so got the question.
Just what happens when you when a DDo or a DDoS attack
Yeah.
or data breach?
Yeah.
What your role is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So my role, like I said, if it's a new company, I'm right there. I hop on a plane and I go, or at least I pick up the phone, or I'm doing something. But if it's an existing account, then I just hope that the guy or the girl who's taking care of that's doing their job. But again, and that we're a big company, so we have a lot of customers that if they do, hopefully we don't hear about them, because one of the things you have to think about too is staying out of the news is a big deal, right? Like, again, people kind of, I don't know if they overthink it or underthink it, but it's like, and again, not to throw banks under the bus or anything, but it's like if you bank with a company and then that bank gets hit with a ransomware attack, you may lose faith in that company to bank with. You and probably everyone else, or at least let's say 10% of their customer base. That's huge. So again, like most of our job is to do things that like you don't notice, right? Like, again, you guys like to stream services. You get to stream Netflix and Hulu and Apple. Like, you guys don't really think about where it's streaming from. You just want to make sure it shows up when you request it, right? But when you look at who's streaming it, like, that's what we do. So again, it's like a lot of this stuff is kind of one of those things. It's like, I always joke, it's like cops, firefighters, and ambulances, right? No one likes to see cops typically. Everyone loves firefighters and ambulances, right? But like you see a cop show up, you go, oh shit. You're like, okay, yeah, what's going on over there? And but anyways, like the whole idea is like, when you want to be the person who, you want to be on the side that if that were to come up, you're at least the first person they call. So in situations like this is why like outreach, consistency, partners, working with your team. So if I'm reaching out to, again, we work with Nike already, but like if Nike didn't work with us and then Nike got hit with one of these or a ransomware attack, I want that person to go, oh, who was that dude who kept emailing me about ransomware and DDoS attacks? He's going to go through his email, something similar to this, and go, hey, do you guys still do that thing? It starts a conversation. And then again, it's on you to seal the deal. But ultimately, it's like you have an opportunity now that you never had before. And that just takes time, effort, relationships. Again, coming downtown, going to events, going to dinners, trying to make, shake hands, make friends. Like, and again, it's like, oh, this person's kid plays baseball at this school. I need to go and spend time not with kids, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like the goal is to try to find ways to breach that kind of gap where you can find some common ground and have a relationship. If you don't have a kid, don't go to kids' schools and hang out with kids. That's not advocating for that. That's not my intention. But anyway, answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So again, and different companies are different, right? So we do farming and hunting. Some people are hybrid. I tend not. My personal opinion is I would be mindful of hybrid approaches simply because, like, when you find yourself in a hybrid sales environment, it's so much easier to grow accounts that you already have. Because it's like, if I'm a potato farmer, I'm going to focus on growing potatoes. Now, if an elk walks across my yard and I shoot it, I'm not a hunter. That's just shooting an elk on a potato farm, right? So it's easy to take what you can get, but at the same time, your real focus is on the things that are easy pickings, right? You already have the relationships. You already know Steve at ABC company. So you're going to call Steve every year and say, hey, man, how's everything going with that renewal? And so that tends to be where I think the discrepancy is. So again, as a pure hunter, like I have to build the relationship and then maintain it until I can pass it off. And that tends to be how a lot of larger companies tend to go about their business. Having said that, there's still, like I said, hybrids, and there's also the farming roles. So again, you're typically given, like, depending on the size of the company, 15, 20 accounts. Your job is to manage the accounts and not to lose business. Obviously, in a perfect world, you'd upsell to every single company that you had there. But worst case scenario, someone just goes, hey, look, like, we just didn't get along and I want to go somewhere else. Cool. And then that thing gets churned back to the hunting team. And then my job is to hopefully bring them back in.
In terms of cybersecurity issues that you see, what percentage is like technical shortcoming, like your client didn't set up their firewall correctly just because they didn't know, versus
human error. Employees are opening up phishing emails from Chinese hackers, and they're being social engineered.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's kind of like, let's see which one's more. I'd say the goal of like a good hunter or someone in my role who's trying to be good at what they do is when you're having conversations with like CISOs or like, VPs or people that are higher above, you kind of have to ask them what their shortcomings are. Because again, like what I would advise everyone to be thoughtful of was when you join a company, you don't want to join a company who's the best at everything, because no, they're not. Be mindful of what they really specialize in. And there may be ones that specialize in more, like just a broader range. Again, you have like Gartner reports, Forrester reports, you have a bunch of third-party reports that can give you like who's the top of the pyramid or the top of this or whatever. The important thing is to be thoughtful of what the customer wants, because I think that you may see something because you work for a company that, let's say, they really focus on phishing and what you kind of mentioned before, and you may see holes in their security portfolio based off of all the stuff that and your engineers, doing research on the company, but they might not see that. So you can kind of like lead them to that. And so like when I typically work with customers, one of the slides I like to share with them is customers like you. So I know you, I know you, I know you. I work with this guy, and this guy actually is doing exactly what you guys are doing. And let's say this guy's just the top of the, he's the Nike to your Skechers, right? And you're like, I want to be a Nike. Well, what he had problems with at this time, and again, you got to be mindful about sharing information, but the goal is to be like, hey, look, companies like you have these problems. You mentioned this problem, here's how we solve that problem. And also, here's what you might not be thinking of, A, B, C, D, and E. So again, it's like, you want to put that sense of urgency there, but you don't necessarily want them, you want to guide them to that conclusion. Because if you sit there and go, oh, I looked at your website, it's all effed up. Like you have a whole mess of things. Because one of the things that you don't want to do is call their baby ugly. That's a term that we always use in cybersecurity. Because be mindful who you're talking to. Because to your point about firewalls, let's say I'm talking to Sarah Smith, and she's the network security architect. And I say, oh yeah, you guys have Palo Alto? Like those guys are terrible. They do all these things. And she goes, I have made my career putting Palo Alto networks into companies. I've had that phone call. It's not good. So again, what you want to be mindful of is like when you're asking those questions is you can set up leading questions like, hey, I noticed that you guys had concerns with this. Tell me more about that. Always open probe. Why? What? How? Right? Those are huge. Those are huge differentiators about no matter what you sell, just be curious, like care, right? And then she goes, well, I've been installing, Palo networks for 25 years. So wow, that's amazing. In your experience, like what are some of the shortcomings? Oh, we lack visibility. Great. Well, what if our solution gave more visibility? Wow. I wouldn't have to get fired. I wouldn't have to lose my job, but I could add this product to my portfolio. Yeah. Wow. There you go. Like so again, it's kind of like you think about it like that. It's less than like, again, oh yeah, all what you have is really like it's poor. It's antiquated. There's so many more better things to use. Why are you using this? And she might go, or he might go like, hey, I've been using this for 25 years. And again, you just don't want to have that conversation. So, and again, goes back to, where am I here?
Should be the third tab over with that.
Am I right?
Box. That's going to be the recording, and then the one to the left of that.
Okay, this one? Okay. Do your homework. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to the guy who put that network firewall in place? Or are you talking to that guy who's a digital transformation guy who goes, hey, that person who put that network firewall in there, they'll be gone anyway. I'm interested. I want to have it all. I don't want any more hardware. I'm done with the hardware. You have a software solution? Let's talk about that. So again, it's like, do your homework, try to figure things out. And again, like find your why. Like, why are they interested? Why would you guys care? Again, why would an application security analyst care about network segmentation? They wouldn't. But that application security specialist probably gives a huge F about API security. So there you go. There's your end. So again, it's not that simple, right? Because you have to answer the phone, you have to make them interested, and that kind of stuff. But again, just know who you're talking to so that you don't just throw someone down or call their baby ugly or do anything that's off-putting, right? Again, the goal is to compliment and move on, kind of acknowledge and move on.
You happy to answer some chat questions?
Let's do it.
We have one from John who says, where do you normally get your leads from?
Take all in.
Yeah. Where do I get my leads from? So in the beginning, I'm not sure if John started from the beginning too, but we work close with partners. So again, partners are critical. And again, the reason why partners are critical is because think of them as like, and again, I'm just using this analogy because it makes sense to me. If this doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. If I'm single and I'm trying to date a girl, I want to make sure that their friends like me. So if there's a pretty girl and she goes, oh, my best friend, Tom. And I go, ooh, if I want to date this girl, I want Tom to like me. I want to know what Tom knows about her. So my goal is to then be friends with Tom. So in the partner perspective, it's like, so I'll use an example. Again, I use Nike. It's a big company. Everyone knows them. I want to sell to Nike, and Nike's Tom is, call it, I don't want to name any partners. I don't want to do that. Partner A. And partner A has like $50 million of business with Nike. Wow. Like, I bet if I joined that partner, if I could make friends with that partner could introduce me to Nike. So that's one way to get leads, is to, again, you're always making relationships, you're always making friends, you're always trying to find ways to introduce your solution to someone who may find value in that. Because that partner, by the way, I mean, I know this isn't really how it works, but like, let's say Tom introduces you to Susie and you're like, Tom, here's your $10,000. Like, that's kind of how it works in the partner business. But so the leads conversation, marketing, we have webinars, we have kind of the traditional way of marketing that we get leads from, but like really good, meaningful leads come from networking. So like memberships and stuff, like, let's say you like to drink, you go to the whiskey library, be a member there. Let's say you're, you like to work out and there's a gym that it's cool to go to and be a membership there. Like it kind of costs money, or you spend money to make money, so to speak, but it's also the networking events, like the Technology Association of Oregon, like that's a great place. Like you go and there are people there that talk about things that you're interested in, or there are people there that are networking for that same capacity. If you're looking for like leads in the traditional sense, like, again, who hit your website, did they fill out a form, and you want to call them, that's company to company. That's like, every time you fill out a form, every time you fill out a questionnaire, you become a lead. And everyone knows that. I mean, well, hopefully you guys do, in case anyone doesn't know that. Whenever you fill anything out, you became a lead. So, yeah, hope that helps.
We have another one, which was Sherry was asking if you could explain what smashing emails and smashing phones meant.
Yeah. So, in one of my initial sales roles, I sold individual life insurance. So my job was I got a zip code, or 3 zip codes, and everyone over 65 had a name, phone number, and an email. So smashing the phones was calling everyone. And you have your pitch, you do whatever. So what I would do is I would smash the phones, which means that I would call. I'd book a meeting, and then the next day I would show up. And hopefully sit down and have a nice, candid tableside conversation about your Medicare concerns and your life insurance concerns. So that's what smashing the phone is. So smashing the phone and smashing the emails is basically knowing that you have to like knuckle down and you just have to do the ugly, gross part of your job that I think is very unflattering and is very kind of like, it's the not Hollywood part of what you have to do. But you, again, it's like that's what's going to separate you from everyone else, is because if no one else does it and you do, everyone, or if you're the only person, if everyone else didn't do it and you were the only person that did do it, like you'd make a killing. It's easy it's easy to sit there and go, I'm not going to make any more phone calls because they've been inundated all day with phone calls, so they don't want to hear from me. I'm not going to send an email to someone because it's the end of the day, I'm tired, or whatever. Any excuse that you have to not do that. Again, it's like, I don't know if you have dogs or cats, but it's like, it's really easy to convince yourself not to pick up the poo at the end of the day, but you just got to do it, right? And so, like, if you can learn to kind of change your mindset so that you know that if you really want to be successful, you just have to do the things that don't look pretty on paper. So.
Last one would be, where do you see cybersecurity going?
Great question. Yeah. There's no, I don't have my engineer with me, so I really can't answer that candidly. I mean, I don't know. I think, you know, wow, good question.
Those who don't do cybersecurity will.
Well, I think it's interesting, right? I mean, and you bring up a good point. So again, coming from an insurance background, I worked for a company where I would sell employee benefits, which is not property and casualty, but the other side of the office was property and casualty. And those guys dealt with cybersecurity insurance policies. So it's interesting because it's like, okay, I'm a company and I'm seeing all of my competitors getting hit with ransomware, DDoS attacks. They're getting hit with cybersecurity issues. Is it cheaper to pay the premium higher, or is it cheaper to not buy a solution? I think with the way things are going, you know, when the White House and with the way things are going with the nation at this point, with regards to how the current administration is handling that, I think that as a company, it's going to be required. And I see cybersecurity insurance going up. So if you're not careful and you get hit multiple times, just like if you're driving a car, if you keep getting into car accidents, your insurance is going to go up. Now it's like, okay, well, is it actually worth buying a solution that stops this from happening? Or is it worth making a measurement of, I'll just increase my premium for cybersecurity insurance? Now, having said that, what does cybersecurity insurance cover? I can't speak to that. But at the same time, if you're going to sit there as a chief information security officer and double down on your insurance, then why are you there? Personally, I mean, like that's my opinion. I think that without a doubt, cybersecurity is going to become a real pressing issue. Now, the only two things that I think I don't have insight into is quantum computing. I don't even know where that's going to take anything. I mean, I don't think anyone does. But again, it's like, I bring up some of the ones that are in the news all the time, like MGM got hit. They had to spend $100 million on basically paying these hackers to withhold data, which they didn't. And they released everything. 23andMe just came out the other day. They got hit. And guess what? Everyone who gave their spit, blood, whatever, 23andMe, what? Are you guys going to get your money back? No, of course not. And is anyone going to sit there and double down on 23andMe and say, now that got released, I want to start sending my information over there? Probably not. So now you think about, again, right? 23andMe is one of many other companies that do what they do. But what's stopping the other companies from doubling down? And again, for what I sell to these companies, $100 million is not what I make. So if they want to spend $100 million on hacker, or from people for paying off the bad actors, but they want to spend a fraction of that to secure themselves, hey man, like I said, there's probably a CISO who's looking for a new job. I don't know for sure, but if I was on the board, that's what I'd be thinking. So again, good question. I don't know if I have an answer to that, but I'd say it's lucrative. I'd say it's hugely lucrative. I'd say these numbers are only getting bigger. And again, I just pulled this up like immediately, and this is from 2020. So I mean, if those numbers went down, that would be news to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions before we? Yes.
Any technical certifications that you recommend? I guess geeing up on like CompTIA series, anything like that?
For sales, no, because you don't want to be like, you don't want to know too much to not know enough. You know what I mean? I'd say that the ones that I see is the CISSPs, but those are really intense. Very, very few people in sales, I would say, have anything. I'd say the best thing you can have in sales is relationships and experience in the field, which you can't buy. And that's kind of like, that's one of the hard parts. But yeah, double down on, again, go to these meetings, go to the Technology Association of Oregon, like look on Caligator, try to find people who just talk about things that you're interested in. I mean, that's going to give you experience. Like learn the vernacular, like learn like abbreviations, because I'm sure you guys all know from whatever your guys' background is, abbreviations are just the headache of the scourge of everyone's existence. So yeah, exactly. So if you just want to like try to play in that space, like learn to talk the language, learn to be, you know, again, be nice, be polite, but make these people think to themselves, why haven't I hired this guy or this lady or this dude or they or whoever you identify as? But it's just like, just be that person where learn the company, do your homework, learn the right people to talk to, and again, make it so easy for them to hire you. It's probably the easiest thing I can do. And again, if sales is, it's a fickle industry, man. Like I might not stay here forever. Who knows? You know, and it's not because the company's bad. It's not because I had a bad year. It could be any number of things. But again, the idea of sales in the tech world is huge because people buy from people they like. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think to answer her question too about cybersecurity, at no point will people be replaced by order management systems for enterprise companies to buy cybersecurity. There are too many nuances. There's too many teams. Like I said, you may talk to the marketing team about, all right, let's see where we're at here. You may have a conversation with marketing about image and video management. So load testing, cloud. So we have this solution, which I always joke, if I ever lose a deal, I'll explain to you in a second. There's a thing that we sell that basically if you're like an e-commerce company, you may say, hey, we're preparing for Black Friday. We want to know what this new application that we're launching, we want to know how many users can hit it at one time before it collapses, which is basically a DDoS attack. So it's great because they pay for it and it's a wonderful service. And again, it's like that way when you go to wherever you all go to on Black Friday to order your stuff, you expect that site to be up, you order to go through, and it's all good to go. If it doesn't, you go right to the competitor and you do the same thing. Whenever I lose a deal, I always say, why don't we just send them a complimentary cloud test, which is what we call it. But like, give them a complimentary how you doing, just in case they forgot. But it's obviously we don't do that. We don't DDoS people that we don't close deals with. But again, the idea being like, again, before it's like, you know, again, knowing who you're marketing to, knowing kind of that conversation to be had. So, yeah. I don't know.
Any other questions?
Is everyone fulfilled? Did everyone feel like they got out of this? With?
Great talking, Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Really-
Thank you.
Really happy with your success.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Can we call you the Wolf of Cupertino?
You call me whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for everyone online, just so you know, this will be available. We're gonna post this on our YouTube channel, and yeah, we've got some other good tech talks coming up in the future. This don't have any in person yet, but we do have another good one that's gonna be virtual coming on this Friday. So yeah, thanks again, Andrew.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
I can stick around if you guys want to go other questions.
Right on.
Thanks, Austin.
I'll shut this down.
Andrew.
Oh yeah, please.
Great job.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure which one you want first.